Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another live session with me here. We're going to be talking more about fasting and that sort of thing. But I wanted to kind of give a kind of a clickbaity title to this, like why you shouldn't start a new business in 2021 um, without a God reason. And no, it's not a typo. I'm actually saying you actually do need a God reason to start a business. Uh, the premise is simple enough, right? We often get caught up into reasons why we do things, and we kind of try to retrofit the God's reasoning into our reasoning, and so I think a lot of times that is something that's um, yeah, bothersome and yeah. So I just wanted to talk about it. So let me introduce myself again. My name is DJ Eshelman, and um, I'm supposed to have a name on the screen. There we go. There's my name. There I am. And yeah, just a little bit about me if you don't know who I am. I am a kind of a oh, I don't even know what title to use these days. Coach is a very often uh, used word to describe what I do. In a nutshell, I just want to see people succeed and leave this world better than they found it. And so my job in life is to inspire others towards that end. And so a big deal for me is making sure that people are well equipped and well apportioned to do that kind of thing. And so I'm going to take a moment here and make sure that the video is actually working. So give me a moment here. And that sounds like it's working to me. So I want to let that go. And if you are joining me live here, feel free to just make a comment and I will see that over on this other screen I have over here. Yeah. And so we'll put that up on the screen and it'll be a fun time. But anyway, in terms of starting a business, there's a lot of things that maybe some people realize and some people just have trouble understanding what a business is. And when we think of business, sometimes we think of places you go to work and you go to work for a business and you earn a paycheck from a business and things like that. And that is true. But a business really is serving. That's just really what it is more than anything else is a purposeful serving of another person in exchange for value. And usually that value tends to be currency. And that's what a business is. And so when it comes to starting a business, a lot of times what people don't realize is that there's that component of exchanging value. And this is unfortunate. There's a lot of people that are kind of negative on business or vilify people that are in business because they think of like big business as being very big and evil, and anybody who wants to be in business and wants to earn an income is bad. Yet they go to work. It's kind of I've never really kind of fully understood why people have this attitude. But if that is your attitude, if you are thinking that you know you heard like in some bad Sunday school lesson or something like that, that money is the root of all evil, or things like that, then yeah, you're probably going to have a bad attitude about business, and you probably shouldn't start one. But if you actually learn the actual verse, there is that money is the roots of all kinds of evil, and or the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. That love of money, not money itself. If you get to the proper part of that, then you're probably in a better place to start a business. And we can talk in a minute about everything that might look like, as far as the various kinds of businesses that you can get into. But I wanted to kind of get more into kind of that God reasoning for starting a business. A lot of times when I'm doing coaching, I am hearing from people that they don't quite understand that um, you should have a why of starting a business. If your business idea is something that you're thinking about how you're going to get rich quick, or you're kind of obsessed with, what can I get out of something? then you're really in a wrong place, you know? I mean, I'm not saying that that's not possible or feasible even, and there are even some Christians that I know that run their businesses like that, and I'm not saying that that's wrong or evil. I'm just saying that that might not be God inspired, because God doesn't really work in short little moments. God works in the bigger picture of our lives, right? So when it comes to thinking about business, if you're only thinking short term, if you're only thinking in those little bits of time and what can I get out of that moment or what can I get out of people, then that's not much of a servant's heart. You're not really thinking of that long term relationship with people. You know, if you are out to start a coffee shop and your thinking is, I just want to be open for a weekend and sell a bunch of coffee and then move on with the profits. Does that make a lot of sense? No, it doesn't. And so when it comes to this, thinking about starting a business or being in business, you really need to be thinking more in terms of what, in fact, what the Bible says about business a lot. It actually does talk about business and money a lot more than we think. It's something we're going to be exploring during our fasting time next week. Is, more about what the Bible actually says about business and the guidance that it gives. But by and large, one of the things that stood out to me about all this is that, you know, if you're not thinking of the long term, then you are a fool. Is what Proverbs would say about that. And so we don't want to be a fool. We want to be someone who is very appropriate with what they're doing with their business. So the big thing that I'm seeing people do, and the reason why I gave this video the title it I did, is I'm seeing people thinking, "Okay, this is kind of an unprecedented time," and that's true. It's also a time of a lot of opportunity. When you really boil it down, we have more ability to launch and sustain a business now than we ever have. It's super easy. Literally all you have to do is exactly what I'm doing right now. You have to just click a few buttons and say, "I'm in business." And guess what? You can exchange money from people. You know, you don't have to go through a bunch of things these days. You can literally take payments from PayPal. You can do things like my wife is doing right now, where she's going to be selling some leather products she's making at a consignment store, that sort of thing. So that's a business. That's what that is. But it's not complicated anymore. It's not like you have to, hang out a shingle and hope people will stop by. It's not like that anymore. It's very much more open. And so what's happened in the last few years is you've had a influx of what I call digital entrepreneurs. And by the way, I count myself among these because I don't have a physical location. You're looking at my office here, obviously. you know, totally me. But the truth is that I've had the ability to do more without having to go physically to places or physically meet with people than I ever could have had like 10 years ago. It really just the opportunities were less. And 20 years ago, it'd be unheard of. 30 years ago, there'd be no even notion of it. Like publishing books, for example. I was able to self-publish 2 books last year. That's crazy. That's not normal. So there's a lot of opportunity we have that we just didn't have before. And what we're going to see in this next year I believe, is a huge amount of information about how to do this, and a huge influx of people that are wanting you to be part of it. And I don't think in and of itself that that is a bad thing. What I do think is that if we get caught up in the emotion of these things about running a business and what's possible and all these kind of things, and we get caught up so much in the emotion of that, that we lose sight of where we should be in life and where God has specifically called us to be and created us to be. That's where we start getting into that bad area. And I say this from experience. I say this from a person that has kind of been through the ringer in the last 10 years or so of running my own business. And, I've started off with much more of consulting work because that was I I I really did just fall into it. I didn't intend to go back into that. It was something that that I had done previously and was working for companies that were I liked the stability. And next thing I know, I'm right back into independent work and independent consulting and things like that. So it's not unusual for me. And I just realized something I need to check here. Pardon me a moment. Okay, we're good. I just wanted to check my audio was actually coming through the right thing here. I've got microphones here and here and here and here. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure I had the right one selected. I apologize. So for me in my business journey, it really was um, uh, a jump into consulting. And that's kind of what sustained me for a long time. Now, the interesting thing about that is that there were times where I wasn't positive that that's what God wanted for me. Um, in fact, when I started seeking that out and saying, okay, am I positive that this is where God wants me in my life? I had to come to the conclusion that not necessarily. It's not that. So, like Paul, for example, we know that Paul, even though he didn't really talk about it, we know that he had a job. He had to, he would make tents, and be a tent maker and that sort of thing. And so he would go places and work and minister while he was working. And so that was something that I looked into. Is like, is that my right calling? And came to the conclusion that while my calling wasn't necessary to minister to people I was working alongside, equipping them to be more than they are, kind of helping to inspire them and be, you know, uh, more well equipped to be greater. I don't want to say like my job was to make them better because that's just not a reality kind of a thing. That's not true. But being able to focus in on exactly those kind of ways to inform and inspire people to become better if they want to is something that I was kind of feeling that call towards. And the more I did of that, the more I found it flowed more easily, and that's why I've actually changed the structure of my business to be more of that and less of the consulting work and less of the, day-to-day stuff and much more of the bigger vision kind of things because I was seeking out God. And actually this came from a period of fasting that I am I've lost my schedule, and I apologize, of when I'm gonna talk about that. I think it's tomorrow. Um, Hopefully I'm not misspeaking here, but that is what I'm hoping for, uh, tomorrow is to talk more about specifically fasting and how it's, helped formulate these things in my business in times of really, um, potentially bad decisions I could have made that I think were avoided by fasting. And that's actually something that I wanted to talk about this afternoon as well, is, um, that concept of holding back. It's I never thought that I would have a challenge in my life waiting to set goals. I never thought this would be a thing for me. Usually it's like just talking about setting goals is usually the toughest thing. Um, there's an author that I know very loosely named John Acuff. He's here in Franklin, and he posted something this morning that was, I think, very interesting. I'll have to pull that up and share that. But it was in regards to goal setting that a lot of people don't realize what goal setting actually is. They think of goals being something that you do. What did he say that kids today sometimes think of goals being like you only set a goal if you're fat and you want to lose weight. Uh, yeah, yeah, okay, I get that. When you're being modeled just goal setting being like a band-aid to a problem, then that's one thing. But for me, goals are really have become something that's really much more of um, a target. It's like the goal that I hit easily is not a very good goal. The goal that is very risky, and actually, we're going to talk in the group next week about goal setting a little bit and how to test these kind of goals against what God wants for us. But in terms of making business decisions and things like that. That's kind of where I wanted to bring this in, is saying it's fine to have some goals, but if you attack things too early, too fast, that kind of thing, you really have a lot of risk in that. You can find that you made even the right decision at the wrong time, or sometimes just the wrong decision at the wrong time. You know, they're both perfectly valid, but if you're making your decisions solely to meet a goal that you had, that's something that I see a lot of new entrepreneurs do. And what will oftentimes end up happening is that they will start to feel a panic that they're not meeting their goals. And so they will, and when I say they, I'm meaning me just as much as anyone, because I've found myself guilty of this more than once in my journey of being an entrepreneur, and that digital entrepreneur, of saying, "This isn't working. There's this thing out there that looks really good, and I wanna do that," because that's gonna solve all my problems. That's gonna make it possible for me to meet my goals. If we don't slow down and seek God in these decisions, then we're more susceptible to getting off track where we should be in that moment. The thing in my life that I've noticed is that a lot of marketing is very much emotionally driven these days. And you can get caught up in that if you're in an emotional state. If you're feeling like I should be doing more, in cases like me, for example, you know, I can often feel like, gosh, I'm investing all this time and money, that normally I could be providing for my family with. This stuff doesn't feel like it's working. Maybe I need something else. So there's this progression that we're going to talk about in a couple days, that I call, becoming a squirrelpreneur, where you're just going along, and things are you're learning things and trying things, and whether you're trying to grow or not, or whether you're starting to grow or not, doesn't matter, because you find somebody, launching a new product. It seems to do everything you think you need, and it just fits all the things, and all of a sudden it's like squirrel, and you're on that new path. And then same thing happens, you find it doesn't work, and you're squirrel, and you're on another path. You know, it's just a constant, um, chasing after the latest and greatest, and or whatever you wanna call it, but it's usually based out of an emotion of scarcity, and so I'm looking forward to talking that in a few days. But the concept here is that I really want to not just advise you, but to encourage you to hold off on any big decisions for the year. Um, Make it so that you are not making these decisions until after the fast. So from January 10th to the 20th, we're going to be fasting together. And I encourage you to join us. There is a Facebook group. There's a link in the description of the video here. I can also put it up on the screen here. It is my captions. There we are. So the Facebook group is facebook.com/groups/11 talents 2021 Jan 2021 January. Um, so you can join us there, and we'll have more encouragement for you. But I will continue to go live like this, most days. I'm not gonna commit to every day, but I'll be doing this live, for all that as well. So, but as far as making decisions, I'm gonna really encourage you not to make any decisions. If you're thinking about a new business, hold on. Hold that thought, bring it to God for 10 days, and see if that tests out to be the way you should do this or not. You might find, and what I'm hoping you find actually, is that in a lot of cases, a good idea has a better idea waiting just outside of your line of vision. A lot of times that I've thought in my life that I had a grand idea about how things were gonna be just perfect, and put a lot into it without really seeking God in it, without really doing any kind of research in it. Um, I didn't find until later there was something much better just outside my vision. I didn't see it. And so that's one of the things that I'm hoping to pour into this group is some ability for us to work together and see some of these things that we're not necessarily seeing. I'm hoping that we can have some time um, using Zoom and whatnot to have some live discussions with each other and figure these things out together, like to actually dive in to these ideas and be vulnerable and test them out with each other. That's really my hope. In fact, one of my goals for this year is uh, kind of odd. I think it's more of like a quarterly or maybe a half year goal. Like there's like I'm dividing my year up into sections because when I think about it, I'm not sure I want to plan for an entire year right now. It just doesn't seem practical. There's some things that I want to achieve, yes, but they really may not be as time coded as I think they are. But there are some things that very much have to do with time. Just for my own sanity. There's some things that I absolutely want to stop doing in 2021. Now I don't want them to be stopped. I just want to stop doing them. And this is where there's some evolution going on with me and thinking less in terms of a hobby and less in terms of being a solopreneur kind of thing, and more in terms of being a business owner. And that's just like a progression I'm going through. And so I'm really going to love talking to the group more about that. And this is something that I'm not going to just share on a public forum like this. This is absolutely going to be a private kind of a thing we're talking. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that, as far as, uh, being a little vulnerable and walking people through what I've been through and am going through and, where I see things heading and, having that opportunity to pray with all of you on that and that sort of thing. It's gonna be really fantastic. So I do encourage you to join up with the Facebook group. That's where I'll be announcing, and scheduling the live sessions, and that sort of thing with Zoom calls and things like that. So I do encourage you to do that. Um, put that link up one more time. It's facebook.com/groups/11 talents 2021 JAN. Yeah, go get that. So just a couple more things I'll say about fasting and prayer and in terms of seeking God in a business decision. I'm hoping to find a lot of people this year that are in that starting phase. They're working like the 9 to 5 job, traditional employment, and are really looking to do more, but they're not sure what that looks like yet. They have some ideas, but they're not sure how that is going to connect in the real world. Um, the reason I'm hoping that is because there's actually a kind of a selfish reason here, is that it's kind of like practice. You know, um, what I say um, all the time is that you won't rise to the occasion, you'll only rise to the level of preparedness. Well, one of the occasions that I'm hoping to rise to this year is moving from only serving people in the technology space to starting to serve specifically Christian entrepreneurs or those that want to become entrepreneurs for the first time, whether to supplement their income, like they intend to stay with a full time job, or if they intend to um, uh, replace their income with their own venture. Doesn't really matter. Um, I want to actually do more to serve those individuals at various levels. And I don't know what that looks like yet. So that's my selfish reason for wanting this to be a group that I'm running, is that so we can walk through that together and I can actually see what works and kind of rise up to that level of being ready to do that. And I'll be completely candid and honest here, is I'm a little scared. I'm a little concerned about how these sort of things would go. Um, there's a lot of limiting beliefs that I have as far as um, working in a faith space. There's a lot of bad vibes that can go around as far as that goes. When you start talking money and start talking church, people start freaking out completely. And so I want to uh, figure out ways to bridge the gap there and make it so that this is something that's viable for my family to support my family, but something that I can pour more and more of my time and energy into. So I'm really looking forward to this, mostly because there's a lot of things that I've done outside of that specific space, like in helping other entrepreneurs, that I'm looking forward to being very specific and serving people in that space. And I'll tell you why. Just today, I was looking through a training and um I was like, why? Why is there profanity in this? It serves no purpose whatsoever. It's just profanity. So what really bothered me about this, I'll be honest with you, is and I have it up on my screen and I'm tempted to share it, but I don't want to do that. Um, some of the other titles of the courses are literally 10 commandments. They have 10 commandments right here. It's right here on my screen. And then you scroll down and you're seeing like it's not the actual words, but it's the implied is that censored, kind of thing. It's just like, why? Why is this? The other thing I'm finding a lot of is alternative beliefs that are prevalent in these kind of circles. There tends to be a lot of the universe will grant you this or that and that sort of thing, and it's not really compatible with what a Christian believes. And so what's basically happening is we're I'm having to tolerate a lot of these things and um, kind of filter in my mind. But what's happening is I'm starting to be affected by some of them, and I'm starting to think it's okay to to talk and think this way, and that's not good. So that's really my hope is that we can start a um, or yeah, just kind of a I don't wanna say a movement. I'm not gonna say it that big. But in my life specifically, I want to focus in on serving Christians the way I would wanna be served. In other words, all these things that are going on out there, all these trainings, all these, kind of things like that, I wanna be the filter point for others and say, "You know what? If you wanna talk to my group of people, you gotta meet this criteria, and otherwise, sorry, that's just we're gonna have to find another way." Because that's really kind of where I'm at with that. I'm not saying that those trainings aren't very good. In fact, the thing that's really painful about this is as far as the, trainings go, these are some of the best in the world, and to have this, uh, baggage, I guess you could say, it's been really painful for me at times, of saying, I don't like this, but hey, I'm here. I've paid my money to be here. I'm paid to learn, so I guess I've got to learn, right? I gotta stick with it. I gotta keep shelling out my money to these people, that sort of thing. And I don't like it. And so I've felt for the last year and a half a a calling towards more of that. And so this week will be actually 10 days or so. We'll be testing that more and more to see if I really can provide enough value and it does feel good to provide it. And so think of this as much practice for me as anything else. And so, but the goal here really is to get people to seek out God's guidance on whether or not they should start a business, how they should do it, and the appropriate ways to do that with the kind of honor and dignity that God would expect. There's so much in Proverbs and even the Gospels about how to be an honorable business person. It's there a lot. And so it's not hard to find these kind of guidances. Um, for those of you that didn't watch the last video, we're going to be talking specifically about the parable of the talents. That has been something that's been guiding me for the last, I would say, 5 or 6 uh, fasting sessions that I've done, or fasting seasons that I've done. I guess sessions, seasons. What do you want to call them? That has been over my head for a long time and just kind of almost haunting me as far as the parable of the talents and what that means for business, not just personal life, but business. Just feeling that there's a corollary there, and so definitely want to bring that out. So let me go over to the chat and see if there's any. I have it on a different screen. So if you have any questions of me, I'm going to close this up in about 4 or 5 minutes. But if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and feel free to throw those into the comments or chat or whatever it is on the platform you're watching. I know we're on YouTube and Facebook simultaneously. We're actually broadcasting to 5 different places right now. So, uh, kind of cool technology, by the way. Like I said, it's so interesting to see exactly all the different things that modern technology has for the ability to start and run your own business. That is just getting easier and easier. Um, to do. Now there's a lot of noise out there because of it, but, hey, you know what? That's why we seek m the God of the universe on these things, not just rely on our own understanding, right? It's very important. And so, yeah, awesome. Well, I'm gonna close up here, yeah, by saying once again, you should consider joining us for the fast. It's January 10th through the 20th, um, and honestly, and as far as fasting goes, we're gonna talk, uh, tomorrow, I think it is, or man, I really need to have this up on my screen here. As far as the schedule of things, I can't go back in my in my main window here, I don't think. Let me see if I can do this in another tab. Um, yes, there we go. I apologize. So, yeah, so tomorrow, um, at 2 o'clock Central Time, I'm going to talk through my experiences in fasting so far. And so that will be covering a lot of the different ways that I fasted over the years. It's not an exclusive list. I'm just going to talk about my different ways of fasting, whether that be food fasting or behavioral fasting or both. Um, and also the concept of what I've done in years past of adding things in. So in other words, I'm fasting food, but I'm adding habits and I'm forming those habits and those, you know, I've done like a 21-day fast where that was what that was for me is getting better habits into my life that, I've done better about. I don't want to say I'm perfect about by any stretch. There's certain things, uh, first thing in the morning type habits are particularly difficult for me. So that's one of my challenges for this upcoming week as well is getting better about those habits. And then on Saturday, we're going to be talking with my friend Kevin Davis about more of the food fasting mechanics, like the various ways you can do that, the things you should be watchful for, the things that you can expect, um, a chance for you to answer your questions. So, the other reason I say join us in the Facebook group is because there I will have more instructions on how you can actually join the Zoom call that Kevin and I will be on so that you can ask your questions directly right there with Kevin. And so take advantage of that. This is something I'm very grateful he's doing. This is the kind of thing he does for a living. He's a I guess you could say a health coach, but a little beyond that. He's actually a certified and credentialed physician's assistant that actually runs a clinic doing this. And so for him to be giving us his time is huge. And so I really greatly appreciate that. Actually, by the way, pick up his book. It's a fantastic guidance. There's a lot of uh, his kind of spiritual approach to things comes out in this book, which is fantastic. And so I definitely appreciated that, especially given the previous book that I had read on a diet. Filled me with a lot of frustration in the scientific assumptions that were being made about things that they could not possibly know about cough evolution cough. Yeah, so there's a lot of things like that I definitely appreciated Kevin. So he's going to talk about more about the um, physical side of fasting, like the things you can expect and more. I never want to say advice. It's not going to be advice. It's going to be just simply data. and you're always going to have to do your own conclusions and your own stuff. But on Friday at 11 o'clock a.m., I am going to talk about the squirrelpreneur thing and my experiences, and I'm going to dive deeper into my experiences in constantly shifting directions and why that has been just horrible for my business, and why I think that you should avoid the same. And that's why it's going to be a theme throughout this. And I'll show you how that kept me from becoming the five talents steward that I wanted to be. So anyway, that's another aside there, but I will definitely be talking about that on Friday. So I'll be going live then as well. So one final check of the chat. Looks good. So I tell you what, everybody, I will see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock, and I'll talk more about my fasting experiences. It's going to be interesting. It's already been a kind of uh, a pump up to be this vocal about my faith in a live setting, and so I apologize if I feel like I'm holding back. I'm going to attempt tomorrow to be much more upfront about things and hold back a lot less. I'm going to get myself to that place and really share some stories about what happened to me. Actually, I'm really excited about what happened to me in uh, 2018 during that fasting period. I'm really excited to tell you all about that. So that is something I'm looking forward to tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I will see you all then. Have a great night.